Once a drawing is on the sheet, one of the things that you can do is just isolate certain items in that drawing so that they're the only things that show up on the sheet. For instance, if I zoom in here, we can see that there's two different buildings actually in this drawing. This little outbuilding out to the side, and then there's the second building, which is our main structure. Each of these, more than likely, should have their own sheet. So what I'd like to do on this particular sheet will be to have the main building be on it, and sometime in the future we'll create another view that will have this other building on it. To accomplish that, and to make it so that only one of these is in the view, we need to use what's called a crop region to handle it. To do the crop region, begin by selecting on the view, and you know that you have it whenever you've highlighted over it and this dark box shows up and you click on it. Next, come up to Activate View. When you do this, we've now activated the view, and we can see that the other things that are on the sheet have now been grayed out. It's only those items in this view which are nice and dark and bold. Now we want to activate the crop region, and we can find the Show Crop Region command right next to the little eyeglasses. So click on Show Crop Region. That brings up this Crop Region dialog box, which will surround our current building. Select on that crop region, so it's highlighted in blue. Come down to the bottom, click and hold your mouse button down on the dot and pull it up. When you do this, you'll notice that everything starts to crop itself off. It shrinks it up. In this case, I'm going to do the same thing with this elevation tag. So I'm going to click on the dot, drag it over, and since the elevation tag is no longer inside of that box, when you let go, we can see that part got cropped out. Now, before I do the next two, I want to point out that there is this option that says Edit Crop. If you select on Edit Crop, we can then draw in the exact shape that we would like to have. So you can select on the line tool, pick a spot, come down, pick another spot. I'm going to hit the Escape key on the keyboard a couple of times. Now I'm going to select on the top line, click on the dot on the end, and then drag that dot over. And do the same thing again. Select on this line, click on the dot, and then drag it down. By doing this, we have this shape, and I'm now avoiding this part of the building. Click on the big green check mark, and you can start to see what's going to be left. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Once again, select right here on the crop region, and you'll see that even after the fact, you can click on the little blue dot, drag it forward, drag it back, in order to be able to cut out some of the extra stuff. I'm going to do this one more time. Click on that top dot, drag it down. So now I just have these items that are inside of the box showing up. Once we get to this stage, move back down to the bottom and now hide the crop region so it no longer shows up. That building no longer shows up over here, and we were able to make this be whatever shape that we wanted to in order to window around this building and just have that part of the building show up. The important thing now will be to right click and then use Deactivate View. We can now zoom back out and we can see that everything on the sheet is nice and dark the way that it should be. One other thing that I wanted to point out is if we go back to this level 1 floor plan just by double clicking on level 1 under the project browser, we'll be able to see that that extra building has now been hidden inside of this view as well. And the reason is that in the previous view, when we were on the sheet, we activated the view, which means we activated this view, the level 1 view, and then changed the crop region, which affects the level 1 view. Just to point that out, if we move down here and pick on that same little icon, Show Crop Region, next to the little eyeglasses, we'll be able to see that box that we ended up drawing and reshaping. And if we click back on the icon again, that box will go away. So the crop region allows us to crop down and just see those items that we want to be able to see inside of the view. When we placed our views onto the sheet, it automatically placed titles associated with each of these views right underneath the original view. In this case, if you highlight over one of your views, you'll see the title that's associated with it. Now, sometimes your titles will look a little bit too long. In other cases, it just won't be lined up in the exact spot where you'd like to be at. To manipulate this, all you need to do is move your mouse down and click on the title itself. While holding the mouse button down, you can drag the title to the position you'd like it to be in. Unfortunately though, by using this method, and I'm just zooming in by using the wheel on the mouse, there's no way to make this line here be shorter or be longer if that's the way you'd like it to be. So in order to adjust that, instead of clicking right here on the line, which as you can see does not give me any sort of dots or manipulation points, instead click here on the view itself. When you do that, you'll get a blue dot here as well as a blue dot here. And you can pull that blue dot from one spot to another in order to lengthen or shorten the line that's associated with your view titles. Also, when you place these views in, it'll automatically title them with the name that's associated with the particular view that it came from. In this case, it was level 1, and it got that information from over here. Now, it may be tempting to select on the view, and then click, and then type in the new name. And sometimes that'll be okay, such as typing in first floor, and now I'm pressing enter. It'll ask, would you like to rename the corresponding level in views? If you say yes, it'll change that information over here. Just so that you can see it, go ahead and click on yes to that. And now you'll notice that it says first floor over here. Also, if we expand out the ceiling plans category, it'll also say first floor for the ceiling plans. Oftentimes that'll be just fine. But maybe we'd like this to read something a little bit different. Not just first floor, but maybe first floor plan. If this should be first floor, what we can do is click on the view again, go to its properties, scroll down, and then there'll be an option about midway down called title on sheet. If you type in something different here, such as first floor plan, and then move your mouse over into the drawing area, you'll see that it's now called first floor plan here, but back on the project browser, it'll still be called first floor. The reason is that whatever you have for title on sheet is an override for whatever is in the view name category. So anything that you have in that dialog box, that's what's going to show up for the title. One other thing to remember is that you're actually going to be best off to move your view to the spot you'd like it to be first. And that's before making any kind of modifications to the title. The reasoning behind this is, for instance, in this case, I had the view up here in the corner. Then, if I select on the view, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to change this to be 1/4 of an inch equals 1 foot. When I do that, we can see that the view is now larger. The problem is, though, is if I start to come down like this and try to center this in, we can see that the title is almost falling off of the sheet now. So even though we had moved it to adjust it the first time, we're now going to have to move it in order to adjust it a second time to the appropriate spot on the sheet. So as a result of that, always try to get this in the spot that you'd like to be on the sheet first, then make the adjustment second. Because if you move this title to be exactly where you think it should be first, then if you have to make any adjustments to your view after the fact, there's a very good chance you'll have to once again move that view title by clicking on it and dragging it to the appropriate location after the fact. A very common practice when working in Revit is you'll move underneath the project browser, you'll open up one of your views, you'll open up another view, and then you'll open up yet another view. And for the purposes of this exercise, feel free to just open up several different views over here from the project browser. When you've completed that, what you'll find is that you have the one view that's open here on your screen. Most people don't realize is that this actually opens up multiple views at the same time. If we want to see that a little better, move up here and select on Tile Windows. And we'll see each view that we double-clicked on just a moment ago. The problem with this is that if you have too many views open, then if you make a change in one of those views, it'll have to regenerate that change in each of the views that change could show up in. So if I moved this curtain wall, for instance, it would have to update that move in this view, as well as in this view. Anytime that your computer has to update views, it'll start to slow things down. And you don't want to do that. So to speed things up, start closing down your extra views. The fastest way to close these extra views is to find a view that you want to leave open. In this case, I'm going to choose on my floor plan level 1 view, and this is the only view that I want to have open. To do this, come underneath the View tab, and when this is fully expanded out, you can select Close Hidden. And any window that's hidden by this main window will now be closed down. We'll be able to see that if we choose on Tile Window, you'll see that it's expanded itself fully out. Or if we select right here on this button, Minimize, this was the only view that was left open after telling it to close the hidden windows. So to close your hidden windows, just remember to open up the view, expand it fully out on the screen that you want to keep, and then select Close Hidden from underneath the View tab on the ribbon.